Hey everyone, warm welcome to our N3XTCODER meetup and welcome to the Summer of Sustainable FinTech 2020. My name is Leonard Nima. I'm one of the co-founders of N3XTCODER. Very excited to welcome you today to our meetup series. With me already, you can see our first guest, Martin. Martin, hello to you.
Hi, hello everyone.
Gonna hear from you in a second, but let me first of all give you all a little bit of context. At N3XTCODER, we have invented the FinTech for Impact Challenge, where we want to identify the most impactful FinTech startups that really have a focus on creating a positive impact on our planet. You all know there's a lot of buzz about FinTech, but how can we actually steer this in the right direction? I think this is one of the key questions that we want to tackle and we want to address. So for our FinTech for Impact Challenge, we have partnered with Visa and our home base, FIFA Digital Hub, where we usually are in Berlin. This time, due to COVID-19, we have taken our meetup series online. So great to welcome you all. Meetup series, so we already had a meetup last week where you got to know 3 of our impact ventures. Tonight, we're gonna focus on 3 more, and this is where Martin comes into play in a second. So basically tonight, we give 3 of our impact ventures the opportunity to pitch their ideas, but also to engage with you, with our community, with Q&As to learn more about what they actually do. So tonight, 3 speakers. We have 5 minutes pitch presentation per speaker. I'm kind of strict, but it's summer, so if it's 6 minutes, Martin, that's okay. But then we have a 10-minute Q&A session, so I have to come up with some good questions. But also, you know the game for you in the audience. We have our Slido tool on the right-hand side in the browser. Make sure you ask your questions to Martin and to our other speakers. So, not too many rules. Martin, are you ready? You're the first one to go.
I'm ready.
Cool. So I would say the warm welcome again. You are the co-founder and the CEO of Monkey, and you're going to present today what you're actually doing with Monkey and what your product is all about. So I would say time for you to set up your slides. I know you're going to share your screen, and then I would say all over to you.
Cool. Thanks, Leo, for your introduction. Can you see the slides already?
Yes, all good. So stage is all yours.
Cool. So hi, everyone. My name is Martin. I'm one of the founders of Monkey. And with Monkey, we have the mission to help people to increase their financial fitness by bringing saving and spending money back into a more sustainable balance. Why financial fitness? Because we at Monkey, we're convinced that in order to live a holistically healthy life, we need to get our physical, mental, and financial health back into sync. Today, it is fair to say that it is much technically and psychologically easier to spend money than to save money for the future. Just think about one-click shopping, subscription models, or how data is used today in order to show us the right product at exactly the right time in our Facebook or Instagram feed. And this leads to a lot of very negative consequences. So debt levels are an all-time high. Money worries are already the #1 factor for stress and is negatively impacting our mental and physical health, relationships, and even work performance. And not just only for the very low income group. There is a study by the ING Bank that says that in Europe alone, there are more than 350 million people who could benefit from digital solutions that help them to take better financial decisions and to better prepare them for their financial present and future needs. And that's why we at Monkey, we decided to develop a financial fitness coach that helps people to improve their financial habits and to help them to save more and in the next step, invest more money for their future. So how are we going to do that? Monkey helps people to build up a rainy day fund, but also to save more money for very concrete saving targets. So for example, the vacation, the e-bike, or the school laptop for your kid. Users can set up their own saving targets, but Monkey also recommends saving targets based on people who are similar like you, a little bit like the Amazon people who buy this also bought that kind of feature. In the next step, we are using gamification in order to break down those longer-term saving targets into more motivating weekly challenges. So instead of 600 euro for the school laptop for your kid, it's now suddenly 6 euro per week over a certain period of time. And then in the next step, Monkey starts sending you digital nudges. So in our case, those are push notifications on your smartphone. It could be questions, it could be feedback, it could be just, hey Leo, what about saving 7 euro for your vacation? And with one click, you're another few euros closer to your saving target instead of spending this money for buying stuff at the next time when you're going shopping. And in the next step, we also thought about how can we further help our users to reach their targets. And we came up with the Future Boost, which is our users, they can shop whatever they had to shop, so their daily necessities, or if they're, for example, saving money for a vacation, they can use one of our more than 100 retail partners. If they're buying there, we are getting a commission, and we're giving back the majority of this commission into the saving wallets of our users as a contribution for their future saving targets. And that's why we call it Future Boost. So what do we think makes Monkey special, and where do we also see the opportunity? First of all, the financial coach. So it not just helps you set up targets, which is something that most online banking apps already can do, but it also helps you reach those targets. And while users are shopping whatever they anyhow would need to shop, they are contributing to the longer-term saving targets. Monkey also works on top of all existing bank accounts at the moment in Germany and Austria. And having your savings a little bit separate from your normal online banking also serves as a very important kind of mental bucket, which keeps the money a little bit more protected. And last but not least, while we are now kind of launched the first use case, which is saving, we're currently also working on a very simple ETF solution, always with the ambition to really help the mass market to improve their financial fitness, which in Europe alone is a several million people market. And where we are at the moment, so we launched our app in September 2019. We are now at more than 45,000 downloads. We are growing more than 20% month on month, and Corona even accelerated our growth. And Monkey already helps people saving money for saving targets with more than 60 million euros of value. We are currently fundraising. And here we are also, of course, looking for a strategic partner who also shares our mission and helps us to go this next step, also when it comes to introducing new products into our app, with the big ambition to help people improve their financial fitness. So if someone is interested to partner with Monkey, I'm happy for your messages. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Martin, coming back in.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions, but also to encourage everybody in the audience who's watching us, make sure you type in your questions in Slido. But maybe let's get started. When you presented what you actually do with Monkey, I mean, you have a focus on savings. When you think about improving financial health, I would say it's savings, but it's also spendings, having a good overview. Why did you focus on savings instead of, let's say, cutting spendings, having a better overview on spendings?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there are already apps existing which are kind of budgeting apps which cluster a little bit kind of your expenses. What we wanted to do is to develop something that actually really helps building up better habits. And this is something where we thought as a use case that savings makes much more sense because it is much more engaging for users than just having a look on how they're spending their money, to really actively engage them in saving for their future targets, because this is something where users usually share a certain kind of involvement.
Do you anticipate, I mean, you said you're going to launch the app, so this is a little bit hypothetical. Do you anticipate that users will focus on one target, several targets at the same time? What is the app then supporting there as well?
Yeah. So we launched the app already in September 2019. So that's why we already have 45,000 users. And what we see is that some of the most engaged users within our app, they have an average between 2 and 3 different saving targets, from shorter term things. So people love saving for their vacation. This is something what we already see, but then also kind of longer term targets and this rainy day fund. And this is also something where our content marketing strategy comes into place. So we are doing writing a lot of blogs, doing a lot of infographics, having small calculator tools which should answer the question, how much should I save, for example, with a certain income, with a certain kind of situation, all in order to kind of educate people and then help them to build up those financial buffers. And education is a very important thing. So, I mean, studies show that when it comes to financial education, it proves to be very ineffective when it comes to changing habits, because there is this knowing-doing gap. So we all know that, or I know that I should eat more healthier food, I should do more sports, maybe I should save more money, but there is it's very difficult to change my habits to really do those more sustainable things. And this is where we really thought that we want to have an app that actually really go down to the level of habits, where we know it's of course difficult, but where we are using those nudges in order to really continuously try to get saving back a little bit more into our daily routine, where we are usually just confronted with consumption.
Totally. You mentioned Germany, Austria. What are your regional plans so far? Are these the core markets? Do you plan to expand in other regions?
Yes. So we launched the app in Germany and Austria. With our current setup, we would be open to have the app running in the whole European Union. So when it comes to our legal and regulatory setup, and this is something we would have planned, and also after kind of the next fundraising round, to slowly but surely internationally expand our app.
Do you see this also as a potential app for, let's say, developing countries, low-income countries, where people really need to save in order to save for education, for healthcare, and so on? I mean, there's I would say probably a different need in these countries. How do you see this?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to international expansion, we are always having a look first on where kind of the technological adoption ratio, so how open are people there to use apps for something, and then of course also the need. And this is something where we see also quite interesting expansion kind of past towards more southeastern Europe, and not just going kind of northwest, but also southeast. The whole trend of financial health is coming from the United States, of course. And what we really see is that it's now slowly but surely also kind of shifting from the US to the European market, also accelerated by COVID-19. So what we see is that this whole use case of creating more financial buffer that are going to reduce my stress if in case something happens is something where it hits the current time. So we see, for example, in our app that users are saving more than double than what they used to save before COVID. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
That's interesting. So we spoke about markets. There are some questions coming up online already. More specifically speaking about your customers, who are your target customers in specific?
Yes, I mean, something funny or interesting is that we are having more than 60% of our target group is women, mm-hmm. Which is something quite, let's say, special for finance apps. So our main target group is between 25 and 35, so which very corresponds to kind of also maybe, let's say, how active people are using Facebook or Instagram, because we are mainly acquiring our users via those channels. So as mentioned, a large part is women. We used to start with kind of a rather high income group, and we are now slowly but surely also really reaching the target group that we wanted to reach, where it's really about helping them to create those very essential financial buffers. Mm-hmm.
There's a few questions coming on how you work with established banks. So do you collaborate with established banks? Do you compete with them? Do you have your own card, or does it work with your account? So there's maybe a little bit need for more clarification there.
Yes, I mean, first of all, the app works in combination with all existing banks. At the end, you're connecting the Monkey app with your existing bank account via a SEPA mandate, which you know from your mobile phone contract or from your electricity contract. So it works with all the different banks. We don't really see banks as competition, but more really as an opportunity to collaborate. Also maybe offering a tool to their customers where it's about really getting people to save more money. Then in the next step, also maybe introducing them into the topic of investment, which is something that might be super difficult to implement in existing kind of online banking platforms, where they have to cater to the need for a very, very broad target group. So, and that's of course why we are also, when it comes to fundraising, are really aiming for finding the right strategic partner, where we kind of deepen the collaboration, where we can also work from a sales perspective together, but then also when it comes to extension of our product assortment. So I mentioned that our next step now after saving is the topic of investment, and always trying to find a super simple solution where you can't decide between 1,500 different kind of stocks, but something very simple for this specific target group, which is something I think that could be very interesting also for larger established banks.
Totally. How difficult is it to approach these banks to get into a partnership, especially when there are these interfaces when it comes to financial data and so on, because that's a market that is more regulated. So what is your experience there that you can also share with other startups, how to approach this?
I mean, it used to be super difficult at the very beginning when we started to work on the concept and started to find a banking partner to cover all the kind of the processes underlying the Monkey app. It was super difficult to get into contact with banks. But now, as we're getting more and more also coverage, nice PR, we are more and more visible now also in different forums. We are getting contacted now a lot by different banks, trying kind of finding out what are potential collaboration opportunities there.
Mm-hmm. Coming back to the customers, and there's a question that also comes from the audience. How much do your typical users save with your app? So we just learned Leo saved €7 for his vacation. And you mentioned you've been into, like, let's say, higher income target groups first. Yeah. Is there a change towards smaller savings, or how do you perceive this?
Yeah, so I mean, what we see is there are different customer segments already in our user group. There are the ones who are kind of quite conservative, but are having good salary. They're saving a lot. And then there's really also this customer group which opens the app 6-7 times a week, always saving a few euros, which then at the end compound also to a quite significant amount on a monthly basis. So I'm not going to reveal kind of the actual number here in this very open community, but what I can say is that it, from the very beginning where we started with the Monkey app, it always kind of it increased by 4 times the average saving amount per user, because we are now also kind of we are receiving now more and more trust also from the user base when it comes to whom they're going to trust with their savings. And I think there we first had to build up this trust and started to have people talk about Monkey as a tool to save money for the future. And now as we have a certain level, it's getting less and less an issue that we are a startup.
So building up trust, one point, did you also improve on behavior change? I mean, you mentioned the nudging and the different ways of engaging. Is that also something that improved, that you found like better ways to engage with customers?
I mean, yes, of course. I mean, always nudging underlying is our machine learning algorithms. And as always, in the area of machine learning, at the very first stage, it's about collecting data. So you don't really, the algorithms are not smart at the very beginning, right? Because it's more about collecting data, building clusters, doing first experiments. And now as we are having quite a nice amount of users who are actively using the app, we are now getting more and more sophisticated when it comes to those digital nudges. We are running a lot of experiments. We are also collaborating with the University of Innsbruck and another university in the Netherlands, where it's specifically about this nudging, because this is also from a research perspective something quite interesting, because I mean, all the research that is done within this area of nudging usually is done in development countries or with students at university. So there's only little data that can be used in real life use cases. And that's why we're collaborating here with universities, also getting kind of this, let's say, unbiased feedback from them when it comes to how can we further improve the nudging within our app.
Okay. Martin, one final question for you that also comes from the audience. How did you come up with that name?
I mean, within Monkey, there is kind of money and key, and we were looking for something that where it's not about kind of finance or money or something. We wanted to have a face that is the finance code within the app. So within the app, it's really a monkey. It's this little cute little monkey that is kind of sending you the messages, and which can also kind of talk with you in a very informal way about money, which is something usually a lot of people in this target group, they feel a little bit kind of they don't really like the way how banks are talking to them at the moment. Kind of very difficult, very long sentences. And we really try to keep it very, very simple. That's why also the monkey with this kind of thinker eye. So yeah.
So that's something you found out. People rather prefer to talk to the monkeys than to their bankers. Martin, thanks a lot for.
I didn't say that.
I know. With a little yes. Martin, thanks a lot for the presentation, and great to have you with us. And as you can probably see online, there are more questions for you. You might take a look and maybe you can answer the one or the other. And we're going back to back, and with us now is Zara Hussain. You're the Director for Business Development at Arabesque. Zara, great to have you with us. Warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And same for you. Let's hear from you, around about 5-minute pitch presentation, and then we do a Q&A. So everybody make sure you have questions for Zara. Zara, you're getting ready, screen sharing, prepare your stage, and then I'll hand over to you.
I will indeed.
All right, here we go.
Fantastic. So as Leo mentioned, I am Zara, and today I am representing Arabesque Esg, which is the Sustainability Data Business Division of the Arabesque Group. Esg was incorporated in 2018, and at the end of 2019, we also successfully closed our Series A round with a number of institutional investors backing us, including the likes of Allianz, DWS, Helaba Digital, and Commerzbank. So company ESG, environmental social governance, data and information has never been as important as it is today. However, there continues to be a myriad of challenges around the quality of information and the methodologies deployed. In calculating what a sustainability or a ESG score for a particular company is driven by the fact that sustainability simply is quite subjective. And as of today, corporate disclosure remains largely voluntary. And there is also an added issue of that there is an absence of a governing framework. Think the likes of IFRS or GAAP accounting standards as an equivalent. This results in biases in information, slow reporting, and greenwashing, to name a couple of issues as highlighted on this slide. So, how do we address this? Esri is our quantitative data tool that leverages technology and big data to assess the sustainability performance of over 7,000 of the world's largest listed companies, which covers roughly around 90% of global market cap. In summary, our approach is to aggregate a variety of third-party data and to combine long-term ESG metrics, which are typically found in company annual reports and sustainability reports, with news and NGO campaigns from over 30,000 sources from across the globe on a daily basis. We then provide 4 complementary ways to assess corporate sustainability performance. The first one being the United Nations Global Compact score. And this is based on the 4 core principles of the Global Compact: human rights, labor rights, anti-corruption, and the environment. And the purpose for this score is to really gauge a company's overall behavior as well as their reputational risk. So fun fact about the Global Compact is that it dates back to 2000 and was the world's first initiative to hold companies accountable for their societal and environmental impact. We then have an ESG score, and underpinning both the GC and ESG score are 22 sustainability topics within the ESG dimensions, which include issues such as emissions, water, waste, environmental solutions, as well as diversity, labor rights, product quality, and safety. And within our ESG score, we account for financial materiality. So that means for a given company, we assign a greater weighting to the sustainability topics that are more material to their financial performance. We also have a preferences filter, and this is a search tool that flags whether a company is involved with, say, more controversial business activities, such as tobacco, weapons, the adult industry, nuclear. And lastly, our temperature score, which I flag we do our own, which I should flag that we do our own proprietary data collection for. And the purpose of this score is to assess a company's contribution to a rise in global temperatures through their Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. The purpose of this score is to understand a company's climate impact and action within the context of the Paris Agreement. So what makes us different? Well, we follow a rules-based approach to assessing corporate sustainability performance to provide a much more transparent methodology and to minimize subjectivity and biases. Our models are able to digest vast quantities of data, around 100 million data points daily. And we update our scores on a daily basis, enabling users to make far greater dynamic decisions. Our technology-driven quantitative approach also allows us to provide our solutions at an extremely competitive price, and therefore our products are extremely accessible for all. And this is an important part of our mission as we are accelerating the adoption and integration of sustainability data and information so that we can all make more informed decisions and be ultimately part of the solution.
for the solution. That's where I'm coming back in.
Great.
Thanks, Sarah, for the presentation. Again, for all of you in the audience, please make sure that you have your questions ready for Zara. You mentioned it, ESG data has never been as important. We all know big data is a big buzzword out there, but data needs to be valued as well. So is ESG data as valuable as it is important? How do you see this right now?
Before I tackle right now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson, if you just can bear with me. So ESG investing actually dates back to the 1960s, and it began as socially responsible investing. So it's been around for a long time, where investors would take a stance against entire industries or boycott specific companies. For example, during the South African apartheid regime, companies that were involved they use their financial capital to exclude their companies from these portfolios. Up until a few years ago, ESG data investing has remained relatively niche. But there's been a dramatic shift in the mainstreaming of ESG considerations in traditional financial analysis in the last couple of years. I'd say 2 to 3 years, going as recent as that, driven by a number of reasons. But the main one being that there is an overwhelming amount of research that shows that companies that perform better on sustainability issues tend to be better managed in the long term. And this has continued to hold true this year. Amidst all the market turmoil, ESG funds have tended to outperform benchmark funds. So demand for ESG data has mainly been from investors, companies themselves, and now financial institutions as well, as they see it as an effective risk management tool, particularly against in the context of climate transition risks. But really, whether you are an investor, a consumer, or an individual, or a corporate, we all need to take the time to truly understand the companies that we engage with. We are facing, as humankind, an incredible amount of existential, threats and challenges, and we can influence corporate behavior to be a really tremendous force for good. But we need information and data that we can trust. So, a company's societal and environmental impacts are as important, if not more, than their bottom line. And our financial and economic systems need to account for this, and we all have a role to play in this.
So who are the main customers then? What are your use cases? You mentioned the investors, the banks. Are they the ones who use these ESG scores or these different scores that you provide?
So to date, I'd say that our clients have been mainly, it started ESG data. The demand really was driven by investors, as they saw that companies that are with higher performing ESG companies are better managed and have better financial performance and therefore better returns. But there's obviously financial institutions now have a huge interest in this from a risk and compliance perspective as well. Consultants and companies themselves. Now this affects companies' cost of capital, so it's in their interest to have good sustainability scores. I also think that retail banks do have a huge role to play in mainstream sustainability information. And if you wouldn't mind, if I could just share my screen again, I would love to bounce some use cases for the retail segment. So going back to this screen, so I have some examples. I mean, we power data, so we do try to be creative in the way that our clients can then on their side use this data in the most effective way possible. And so for retail, here are a couple of examples. One way a retail bank could help its customers is by providing a monthly sustainability snapshot, as shown in this slide. Using perhaps a traffic light system to highlight the stronger performing companies. Reward schemes could also be developed to encourage more sustainability consumption behavior, which perhaps in turn will also have a positive impact on companies' behavior as well, once all this information is out in the public domain. Another example where in the way that retail perhaps could help their consumers on this journey is to really take a further step in perhaps the more educational side of in helping customers make better informed spending decisions and in line with their sustainability values. So, sustainability lists or dashboards can be created where a customer's specific values and interests can be tailored for given their jurisdiction. And so a couple of examples which we've highlighted on this slide is, you could highlight companies in Germany that are championing diversity at a board level or within their company, or as well as climate disclosure leaders. And this will hopefully really accelerate this the sustainability movement as a whole.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot for showing this. There's a question that comes from the audience. When we think about not only your customers, but your competitors, are there already other ESG score providers in the market? I would say probably yes, I guess.
Absolutely. So yes, there are a number of, and obviously I mentioned we were established in 2018, but there have been several others that have been around for much longer. Typically, the reason, to give you a bit of a background on how where we saw the market gap was Arabesque actually began life as a ESG quant fund. So back in 2012, the founding team did a management buyout from Barclays and began life as a values-based asset management fund, really incorporating ESG information into the investment strategy, and found that the quality of ESG information to be extremely varied, and the existing providers to have low correlation between what the scores were, because ESG sustainability issues can be quite subjective. And so the team began building a quantitative rules-based approach to understanding sustainability performance and leveraging obviously all the data we have in the public domain to provide a much more updated and more refreshed approach to understanding corporate sustainability performance, and so that's where our approach is different. Like I mentioned, we try to minimize sort of subjectivity and analyst views, and so, but it's very much a established product in itself.
Mm-hmm. We just, as N3XTCODER, last week we had our AI for Care datathon, where we explored artificial intelligence solutions in the field of healthcare, care for the elderly. And one thing that has been emphasized over and over again, that even a good AI system requires a good, solid database. I mean, the same here for you. You mentioned you have 150 million data points per day. How confident are you that we're already at a good level when it comes to ESG data, or is there still, let's say, flaws in there, inconsistencies? How do you assess the data quality?
So from our side, we aggregate third-party data. So there are checks and balances on that side, but then our models are also will do flag any anomalies, and that we call it supervised sort of machine learning models that we deploy as there are always checks and balances that are overseen by an actual human. So that's one way of addressing that issue. On the raw data itself, so obviously we process a vast amounts of structured and unstructured data. With ESG itself at the moment, we cover over 7,000 companies. However, there's still a lot of gaps in disclosure, and depending on what region you're looking at, emerging markets, developing countries, there is definitely less disclosures on sustainability topics. So we still have a long way to go on. We really need legislation to come into place and the regulatory frameworks to be put in place to make sustainability disclosures mandatory, and we are getting there over time. We will get there over time. In Europe is obviously leading the way, unless the political landscape dramatically changes in the US. Things are not set to change there for now, but we keep our fingers crossed. So we can always do with more more legislation, which will drive more and more data and more information in this space.
That's great, because you've already answered one of the next questions from our audience, because are regulators actually bringing more consistent ESG reporting requirements into the game? And you said, so this is happening, but we're probably not there yet, or how? What do you think? What's the outlook there also?
Absolutely. So, I mean, this space is just flooded with acronyms. We have several standards, but no governing framework. So there's the GRI, there's SASB, we have TCFD, the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, and what they are trying to all work together to help harmonize this space. But there's a lot of parallels that are drawn with how the sort of accounting standards, when they first initially companies began financial disclosures, it was kind of a bit of a similar landscape. It was a little bit all over the place, and then everyone sort of evolved together to come to a common framework, which obviously drove the mainstreaming of financial disclosures, and we will get there as well. I think given we are in the age of information at a quicker pace than we did with the accounting standards, so we are optimistic that Europe will be leading the way. For sure.
Okay, great. Sarah, I think that's great final words. We take your optimism that Europe will lead the way when it comes to ESG criteria for investment decisions, for buying decisions, for all of our decisions. And with this, I would like to hand over. We go back to back. Kirsten's already coming in. Sarah, thanks a lot. And bye-bye. And Kirsten Hillebrand, good to have you with us tonight. You're the co-founder of Klimakal. So, you know the rules, 5-minute pitch, and then we go into the Q&A. So get your screen ready, your slides ready, and then I'll hand over to you. Here we go.
Ready to go?
Yes, looks good.
Awesome. So thanks for the introduction, and also hi to everybody watching the live stream right now. I'm super excited to pitch Klimakal to you today, and of course I hope you love it as much as we do. First, some words maybe on our motivation behind the product, because talking to corporate representatives, we often heard a similar story. Somebody on the top level realized the importance of sustainability for corporate development, and then focus groups of employees were built, and employees were looking for ways on how to promote sustainability in their company. But still, as we heard, one major challenge companies faced was that it's very hard to integrate sustainability as a key feature of your strategy and at the core of your company if you don't have your employees on board. Employees make hundreds of business decisions every day and can be a huge driver of change, so they should definitely get on board. And that's our mission. When designing the product, it was important to us to first, get employees on board. Second, build sustainability knowledge already into the product. And third, have it ready to be kicked off without a lot of time or effort. And that's how we came to the Klimakal competition. And in one sentence, maybe, the competition is for 2 months, and your employees team up and compete in saving CO2 in everyday office life. So it's an app. The competition is run via an app. It's a B2B product, and it's company internal. So how does it work exactly? To give you some more details, we provide a predefined list of actions, which can be eating vegetarian or vegan, closing the window when your AC is on, coming to office with your bike or by feet, and so on. And now by daily completing those actions, your employees will earn points, and by earning those points, they will unlock certain benefits and rewards, which are of course also green. And as it's a competition, we integrated tons of other gamification elements, like for instance, the team challenges, which you also see on the screenshot. Then we have badges. You can earn extra points if you have, for example, a streak in your vegan lunch, and so on. And in the end, the winning teams will get a prize defined by the company. And that's very important, the customers of the company will get a final report, which includes analysis on how many people participated, how much CO2 was avoided, for instance, and what is feedback of your employees on satisfaction, and also on further steps maybe concerning sustainability. So what makes our competition special is our little superstar Klimakarl, which I may introduce to you right now. Klimakarl is a chatbot. So right now it's integrated via our app, but he will also be integrated in further platforms like Slack or Teams in future. And Klimakarl will be your person of trust during the whole competition, which means basically 3 things. First of all, he will give you daily information on the competition, on your performance, and also, of course, on sustainability in a fun and humorous way, hopefully. Then second, whenever you perform a certain eco-friendly action, you will tell that to Karl in the chat, and Karl will reward you and your team with the according points. And third, I already mentioned it briefly, each week Karl will do a short employee survey in which every employee can tell the company, okay, in my team, in my department, what do I think, how could we behave eco-friendlier, what are steps from my point of view that we could take for a more sustainable future. So I brought some impressions of the current app version to you, because I think the design is also something that's supposed to make it very fun. You see an example of the chat right now. It's integrated via buttons, and the buttons change dynamically depending on the previous answer you gave before. Then, of course, you have your team challenges. Right now, a team completed a challenge, and a donation was initiated for animal protection. And on the right, you have the daily information, and that's also a channel where, for example, companies could integrate some content they would like to draw attention to. That could be done here as well. Yeah, well, and after talking to potential customers, we identified 3 main advantages. First of all, we are ready to go, which means we can do a kickoff workshop where you can tell us if you want to personalize certain actions or content. But if not, from onboarding with newsletters, the building of teams, the monitoring, the management of donations, everything is done by us. So you only pay for the product and not any internal salaries for your employees managing the product. Then employee satisfaction. I mean, sustainability, there's more and more awareness at your employees have more and more awareness for sustainability, and it's noble, of course, to do it only for employee satisfaction or only for sustainability, but we're in a war for talent, and it's useful to get your business or to keep your business running, so it's an important approach. And third, grassroots. We are sure, and also that's the feedback from our potential clients, that sustainability is something which has to be built up from the grassroots of a company and not only top down. And that's where the surveys and also the gamification elements play their part.
Thank you very much, Kirsten. First question to you. I mean, maybe quick comment to the audience again. Make sure to use the Q&A feature in Slido. It looks like you're sitting in an office. I'm sitting in my home office. So probably now COVID-19 times, how does it affect a product like yours, especially in the stage that you are in?
Maybe first to our status quo. We already have the beta version of the app. We are piloting with our first customers already, and we will do so until the end of this year. So we will keep on integrating further features in exchange with our customers, and then testing those each time with a new pilot. And of course, that's a good question, as we are for office employees. But I think that's a very great feature about Klimakal, especially when you consider that home office will keep being an issue also in the future and in the next years. The competition is you can also participate at home. So it's a cool feature that even though you're at home, sitting at your desk, maybe being a bit isolated from your colleagues, you can still take part. You can exchange ideas about the app, and it's not only about working digitally, it's also about having fun digitally for a good purpose, I guess.
There's one question directly coming in, and I might need to rephrase it a little bit, so anonymous, bear with me, but you said chatbots, gamifications are a huge topic when it's come to user engagement. Could your product also work in B2C? And maybe that just triggered a thought. Why did you decide to focus on companies, on teams in the work environment? Do you also have plans to focus on private teams? I mean, we could join forces together with Sarah and Martin and create our own group. Is that also something you would consider? Or
yes, so that's definitely the mission and our long-term vision. But as a small startup with limited budget and time, of course, you have to find an area where you can start and where you can set the pace to be stable and to earn money. And especially when it comes to chatbots and to data, it's only fun if the chatbot understands you. If it doesn't, it's super annoying. And that's why we decided to focus on one specific area. And in that area, Carl performs super well. And then we can keep on adding new areas. And which areas that are going to be, I'm not sure now. That's something we have to test. But definitely our vision is that everybody can use Carl, so we make the biggest impact, but we will see how to manage that.
Yeah, so different business models behind and different strategies then to roll it out. So you said you're in that beta phase now, working with a few companies to test and refine the product. What are your plans for the medium term? So how do you envision it? Also going to different markets, different countries? Will you focus on Germany first? Do you want to take it international?
I think we have a lot of potential scaling up as most of the product is automized. Also, technically, it's no problem to integrate every language. However, we think that we should first focus on the German market because there are certain data requirements, values, for example, and from that area on, of course, international market is one goal of ours. But right now, I mean, we have a few customers, and I think the potential directly in front of us without really changing the product is super high. So we will first exploit that and then see where it takes us, because we are very open to also different approaches. For example, hotels could compete against each others, or maybe different startups. So it's not company internal, it's maybe in a certain area or industry, because it fuels competition, of course, as well. So that's also something we are looking at, yes.
So a lot of options on the table for
yes,
it. Tell me a little bit more about the team, about all the Klimakals in your team.
We are 5 people right now. 2 of them work voluntarily for us, one coach, and the other volunteer is joining full-time in September. Most of us have a business background. I'm a PhD student at the chair of FinTech in Bremen. My co-founder, Henrik, also started his PhD on chatbots on consumer behavior, actually. He quit the PhD to focus full-time on Klimakal. Also, we have Laura. She's a UX designer and is helping us with all the designs and illustrations and how the app is going to be, because to make it fun, you really shouldn't underestimate how it's presented. Yeah.
I mean, the chatbot is a core element, and you mentioned chatbot only makes fun if the chatbot can respond in a proper way. Do you piggyback on existing solutions that you integrate? I mean, for a small team, you just can't reinvent the wheel. How does it look like in terms of development and everything? How much can you basically learn from experience from others?
Actually, the solution, like one mistake maybe we made at the start is that we wanted the perfect chatbot, but chatbots are so, like, it's even hard to define a chatbot because they can have so many forms. And I think the key is to build the chatbot that fits your current needs perfectly. And that's where existing solutions were a big inspiration, because there are, when you think of the big chatbots on the market, most of them have AI technology built into them, but in a quite limited way, to say so, in a way that could still ensure that everything is working out. And I think when keeping on, or when developing our chatbot, it's very important not to jump on every new technology and feature, but to really choose well. And that's, for example, why we do not use natural language processing right now. But our next step would be to integrate it to Slack and Teams, and then using existing open source features to develop the product, but not doing everything by ourselves, because how you develop is not the USP.
Okay, yeah, totally. And I mean, the chatbot needs to be good, but the chatbot could potentially also have negative consequences and unexpected consequences. So how do you deal with this topic? It's the same with AI, a lot of controversial discussions. Chatbots go in a similar direction, right? What's your point of view, and how do you make sure that Klimakal is a chatbot that is a positive chatbot in the end?
Yeah, well, I think that personalization, which is the key advantage of chatbots, is also the biggest disadvantage, because when you provide a chatbot to a customer, you somehow, especially when the chatbot is self-learning and self-adapting, then you kind of build a bubble around the customer, because the chatbot or the developer decides which content is going to be presented to the customer. And I think that's something where you should be very conscious, especially when, like, imagine we give recommendations and tips, and those tips aren't the best suited for the customer. Then maybe we block certain potential of the customer behaving eco-friendly. So that's something also in like in the industry, but also when it comes to social and environmental impact. Yeah, it's a super difficult topic. Like I said, for us, each time we keep on developing our chatbot, we have key criteria, and we do not make sacrifices, and only if we can make sure to meet all these criteria, we keep on developing. And I think that's something that you should do on every step of development. But again, that's super hard. Yeah.
Super hard. I mean, making sure that the chatbot gives the right recommendations, but also on the interaction level. I mean, when people get confused whether they are talking with a chatbot or with a real human. I mean, we had the case with Google some time ago, where it was really about tricking people also to get them confused. How do you set ethical standards also for your organization to say, this is how we have to make it clear that this is a chatbot, these are the standards? Are you developing something like this?
We haven't done it for now, because our chatbot is quite basic now, and we have to check which direction is the best for us. Yeah. But of course, I mean, I think the key rule is to be transparent about what you do, and even if, like, to say it's a chatbot, maybe to publish our rules or our variables on which we base the personalization. I think as far as you're transparent and inform your customer about it, it's something everybody could have an opinion on, discuss it, and then you can go the next steps. That's not something you can do in your own office and decide on what's the right way. So I think this should really be part of a discussion, maybe a meetup or a hackathon, or maybe invite people. That's something for the crowd. We can make recommendations and tell our vision, but then at some point we need to get feedback, from my point of view.
And I think that's a great point, Kirsten. Maybe also then to exchange with other startups that are driven by impact and impact creation, and that want to minimize negative impacts. So maybe join forces with them, define criteria together to say, hey, this is our set of criteria. These are our standards that we want to meet. So maybe we get Martin back in the conversation and Sarah and see what they think about it. Totally nice. So I'm very much looking forward. I think that's a good suggestion. Maybe also something for us at NextCoder to pick up and see how we can foster and support this dialogue and support organizations like Klimakal on that journey.
Maybe like a moral, ethical meetup and discussing certain...
Moral, ethical meetup. That's something that we'll probably do then the next time. Kirsten, thank you very much. We're coming to an end of this moral, ethical meetup, but we'll do another one probably just on the topic. But the next one would be on our Summer of Sustainable FinTech. So we have another meetup coming next week, Tuesday, same time, same place, Tuesday at 5 p.m. CEST. We're going to learn from 3 more impact-driven FinTech ventures. And this is all on our road towards our product hack that we will have on September 4 together with Visa, where we will really work with these selected impact-driven ventures to further develop their solution. And maybe that's a note for the team. Let's think about the moral, ethical dimension into our solutions. I think that would totally make sense. Other than that, very happy that you all joined us for our meetup series. So I hope to see you next week. And now to enjoy your evening, get some ice cream and enjoy the summer evening, wherever you are in Munich, Berlin, all over Europe. Thanks a lot. Take care and see you next week. Bye-bye.